You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. All right, now, Tucker Carlson last night had night one of his January 6th coverage that he's going to run all week long. And the media, the leftists, they're in complete meltdown mode. And they're in meltdown mode because the truth is getting out there. And, you know, on this morning's program, I went through everything that Tucker Carlson covered last night. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to talk now about the liberal reaction. We can go through some of the liberal reaction to this. And this is CNN. This is the show with Don Lemon and the two women that he likes to yell at and be rude to. And they have on there Ken Burns. And Ken Burns, you know, he's the documentary filmmaker who has all those documentaries on PBS. The Civil War, he did one on Prohibition, the one on the Vietnam War. And his documentary did one on baseball. The Civil War, I think, was the one that made him famous. You know, He's very good at making the documentaries, but every time I see Ken Burns, these are PBS documentaries, every time I see Ken Burns on the news talking about what's going on in our society, I question his outlook on our past because he is such a liberal lunatic. Yeah. So this is this morning. It's the morning after Tucker Carlson's huge breaking story, which is only the first day. And he's doing it all week. So, you know, he starts out slow and works up to the grand finale. By the end of the week, the Trump derangement, you know, a lot of these leftists, their Trump derangement syndrome has been in remission just a little bit. And now it's coming back. They're back in stage 4, stage 5. What's the highest stage of cancer you can have?
I think stage 4.
Stage 4. They're in stage 4.
Any disease is
like,
stage 4.
They went from remission to stage 4 on a dime. So they're not really talking about that. They're talking about Ron DeSantis stopping the teaching of critical race theory and being opposed to having drag strip shows in public schools in Florida. But of course, Tucker's name comes up because he's public enemy number one now because he's the one newsman reporting the truth. So here we go.
Moved enough to write about this bill and what's going on with the whole idea of critical race theory and not teaching the full history of this country. Why?
You know, what makes America great is not the suppression of ideas or the pursuit of every corner of those ideas may lead us or the facts. It's about who we are and how we investigate who we are and celebrate the diversity of who we are. All of these bills that DeSantis and others are doing limit our ability to understand who we are and are not inclusive. They're exclusive. They're narrowing the focus of what is and isn't American history. It's terrifying. It feels like a Soviet system, or, you know, the way the Nazis would build a Potemkin village. Tucker Carlson's doing the same thing with the footage from 1/6. It's just a kind of rewriting of history at the most dangerous level. It's a huge threat to our republic. I'm doing, Don, a film right now, working on a major series on the history of the American Revolution, and I can tell you that Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine and George Washington and John Adams and James Madison and Alexander Hamilton are rolling over in their graves if they think that this person is carrying the mantle of what it is to be American.
Okay. Notice how Ken Burns. See, this is what leftists do throughout history. Okay.
Well, let me say real quick. I think all those guys would be rolling over in their graves if they knew that children were going to drag shows in this country. I think that would be more upsetting to them than anything, the state of this country.
They wouldn't even understand it.
I think it would make them sick.
Now, you got to watch these leftists because what leftists do is they take whenever they go into a society, right? The Soviet takeover of Russia, you know, the communist takeover of Russia, right? When the communists took over, when the communists took over Cuba, anywhere. So and the Democrats in this country are tyrannical, socialist, fascist, communist as well.
That's true.
Whenever you have these hardcore Soviet-style people like Ken Burns, Obama, Biden, Soviet Union, Castro, what they do is they take the heroes, icons, and history of that society and make it their own. And what Ken Burns just did is how it was the first rewriting of American history. Did you hear what he said? What makes America great is all his liberal crap. So he's taking. So he is the first historian to take the great "Make America Great Again" slogan of President Trump's and try to turn it into a leftist thing. When Obama first became president, if you remember, he kept talking about Lincoln. Oh, I have the book, Doris Kearns Goodwin's book on Lincoln, Team of Rivals, and this I'm going to govern based on Lincoln. Lincoln, of course, the first Republican president. So the very dangerous stuff here. And when you watch these leftists over the next week, oh boy, the meltdowns are going to continue. Now, S.E. Cupp, she's on CNN, and S.E. Cupp, she's on CNN, has been for many years, but she's a Glenn Beck discovery. Glenn Beck plucked her out of somewhere and put her on the Blaze when that was first starting out. And I remember hearing the first show I was listening to Glenn Beck's show, and she was going to start doing a podcast on the Blaze. This was many years ago because she's been on CNN for a long time now. And he did this introduction to her, and it was like I was listening to The Dating Game. Her name is S.E. Cupp. She hunts. She fishes. She concealed carries, guys. Introducing S.E. Cupp. And then she went on and yeah. And she goes over to, thanks a lot, Glenn Beck. She goes over to CNN, and I know she is a libertarian conservative is what they call her, but she's a lunatic. And also she's an atheist. I don't like atheists.
It's funny how all the conservatives that are on these liberal shows sound like liberals.
They're fake. They're fake conservatives.
It's just amazing to me.
And, the S.E. Cupp, I'm not a bigoted person, but I get creeped out when I'm around atheists. And I was a big fan of Ricky Gervais, right? Very funny guy. And then when I found out he was an atheist, I don't watch Ricky Gervais anymore. And he's very funny. But to me, atheism is evil. Mm-hmm. And atheism, they don't realize it, is a religion in itself. It's become a religion. Maybe it always was. But anyway, this is S.E. Cupp, and she's talking about Tucker Carlson's groundbreaking story last night.
You should not call Fox. This is a joke. You should not call Fox News because anyone editing film and footage like this and then lying to viewers' faces is in the entertainment business, and not even particularly entertaining at that.
Okay, yeah, he's number one in cable news, by the way. Number one in the history of cable news.
So I guess showing the American people the truth of what's really happening is just fodder and entertainment, and not even though the January 6th committee took footage and added sound effects and lied about things that happened, that's okay. But him showing you the actual footage. I don't know if you saw the thing with Josh Hawley. Did you see that part? At the end was really interesting.
When he was running?
They had a whole thing. They even talked about it in the committee about him running, and the whole audience laughed.
He was a coward.
Like he was a coward. And what happened is they were evacuating everybody, and he was at the back of the group, and he just happened to be running by himself. But they showed the video before they showed him, and it was a whole group of people running out.
He was bringing up the rear.
He was the last in the group, and he was just following the group, and then the cops were behind him. He wasn't by himself. It was a group of like a dozen congressmen, and they took that one little clip and played it over and over like he was the only one running
like a coward, like a little girl. Now, this thing with S.E. Cupp, this is a common – I'm not going to play a bunch of clips of this, just this one, because they're all very similar, what S.E. Cupp did. They continue to call what Tucker Carlson did a selective editing, propaganda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you notice, not one of them has shown Tucker Carlson's footage and said, look at Tucker Carlson's footage. He's representing it as this. It's a lie. It's fake. It's false. This is what really happened. None of them are doing that because they can't, because the footage is real. They're telling you, don't believe your lying eyes, and this is what he found. And I'm sorry, if they wanted to debunk it, which they would love to do, they would do it, but they can't because...
No, they can't. All they can
because
do
he's right.
All they can do is try to discredit him and make it out like he's a joke. But I haven't heard anybody actually address the footage, like you said, and debunk it because they can't, because it's right there before your eyes.
That's right.
In clear view. And another thing that was interesting is the thing with the shaman. And they showed him walking around, and I said to you, they're like giving him a private tour. and they're walking around. And then what you told me is you said they're looking for an open door.
The cops, the Capitol Police.
And then to get him in the chamber. And then what was interesting is they showed a video when he was in the chamber. And Miranda Devine called him a performance artist. And I think that's a perfect description. They got him in the chamber. And there was a photographer there with a professional photographer with a professional setup, not an iPhone, like a real professional photographer. And the shaman posed with his mouth open, that famous picture of him with his mouth open in the chamber. And they had a photographer take that picture. And that was on the cover of all the newspapers. So it makes you wonder, is this real or is this Memorex?
The photographer asked him to do something.
But now he's in jail. So you can't say he was working for anybody. I think he's just a useful idiot. And I don't think I don't know how, I'd like to know how he ended up there and his story. He was a Navy vet. And he was there by himself. I'd like to know what his whole story was with the helmet and all this stuff, and how it happened where he got a private tour with 2 cops, and then they even walked past like 8 or 10 other cops, and they did nothing. If he was such a danger, why were they escorting him around the building from room to room instead of out the door?
Now,
his lawyer should definitely do something about that. Now,
today, I'm not going to play the audio because I can't stand listening to him, but Charles Schumer on the floor of the Senate today, he is calling on Rupert Murdoch to personally come to Fox News and stop Tucker Carlson from releasing any more reports
they're scared.
On the January 6 tapes. Now,
they're scared.
Before these tapes when it was first announced that the Speaker of the House, who, by the way, is a Trump puppet, which is a good thing. We want everybody. I'm a Trump puppet. Marjorie Taylor Greene's a Trump puppet. Gates is a Trump puppet. That's what we want. We want people to do what Trump wants because Trump's got a plan here. But when Kevin McCarthy first announced he was going to give the tapes to Tucker Carlson, I said on the show, I said, this is great. I said, release it all.
Oh, they're terrified.
And no matter what, I just want the truth. The tapes may show some things we don't like or wish didn't happen. We wish the whole thing didn't happen, but you know what I mean? The tapes could show something incriminating. It hasn't yet against anyone that but I just want the truth out there. And what you see from Schumer, S.E. Cupp, Ken Burns, CNN, Don Lemon, all of them, what you see is them not wanting the American people to be informed about something. And this has happened many, many times. There have been stories, like I remember there was a big cover-up with the Challenger disaster. When the Challenger exploded, there was a lot of stories which are in the realm of conspiracy these days, but it's probably true that at least some of the astronauts survived the explosion. And there was a story that one of them actually had gotten out of their seat and tried to open up a hatch to get out of the cockpit, which they may have survived the impact. At first, we don't know, but these kind of things come out, and the government has audio, they have video, they have evidence, and they suppress it like they've done the Kennedy assassination information for 60 years. And what Tucker Carlson did was turn conspiracy theories into conspiracy facts. A conspiracy can be factual.
Well, he's also proven that the committee lied and a lot and lied to the American people, and what they're thinking is what you're thinking. Adam Schiff is thinking, what's coming next? Like, he's going to save the best for last. They realize this. They know he's going to save the most incriminating for last. So they're terrified of what's coming the rest of the week.
Well, they should be.
Because he's going to show the most benign stuff the first night. And then as the week goes on, it's going to get more and more damaging. And they're terrified. They're trying to have a cease and desist here immediately to get this to stop the bleeding. They don't want you to know. And it's really sad. CNN has learned nothing. This guy, Chris Licht, he's another liberal a-hole. They have learned nothing from their experience with Trump. He could shuffle around the hosts and put new people in and create new shows, but they're still singing the same old tune.
That's right.
Trump is bad. Conservatives are bad. MAGA is bad. And they're never going to be able to get away from that. They can't control themselves.
Now, of course, we're in the month of March, and the MyPillow March Madness sale is going on where you can save up to 80% off. Now, If you are listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, because the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms, or on YouTube, in the description of the episode is my very own personal MyPillow link. Mike Lindell had his staff put together my own MyPillow website, which is filled with all of my favorites and what I consider to be the must-haves. And they're great deals, up to 80% off these MyPillow products. If you're watching on the YouTube live premiere, the link is pinned in the chat, okay? And I'm going to have this in all the descriptions of the podcast, the radio show, all my YouTube videos all month long, because there are massive sales that Mike Lindell is putting on throughout the entire March Madness sale. So every day I want to talk about a different MyPillow product or two. And I want to talk to people today about the MyPillow towel sets. These MyPillow towel sets are amazing. Kathy and I have 2 of them. And I tell people the same story because it's so amazing. In Mike Lindell's television commercial, he says, towels that actually work. What a concept. And maybe you don't think about that too much, but it's so true. And I know many of you probably heard me talk about this. It's just amazing. I get up in the morning to go to work. I go to take a shower. All the towels are dirty. They're all out in our dirty laundry. And all that was left that was clean was the washcloth from the 6-piece MyPillow towel set. I got to take a shower. I got to be on the air at 6 a.m. I got to do my show prep. I'm up against the clock. I got to shower, to be, on the radio, people can't smell me, but the shower does wake me up, and I like to broadcast clean, and so
those towels are nice.
I took the shower and I got out and I dried off my hair and entire body with just the little washcloth from the 6-piece MyPillow towel set. My hair and body were completely dry. That's just with the little washcloth. That's how good these towels are. And there's an incredible deal going on right now at MyPillow.com with our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. The 6-piece MyPillow towel set, which comes in 10 different colors. We have a set that's navy blue and a set that is white. The 6-piece MyPillow towel set, the regular price is $99.98. They're half off right now with our promo code KANE.
I'll have to get some more sets.
Yeah, KANE. Just $49.99. That's half off, $49.99. That's it. Normally $99.98 with our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. Now, you could take advantage of all the specials at MyPillow.com with our promo code KANE, KANE at checkout, not just the ones I highlight, but those towels, man, they're amazing. And if you order $150 or more worth of merchandise with our promo code KANE, KANE, free shipping on the order.
A great deal.
So it's a good deal, and it's a great way for you to support the program. We'll be right back.
Have you ever said to yourself, I can't work and deal with home? Or, that manager's crazy. I'm not doing that. How about this one? These late hours are so stressful. Does anyone else's spouse do this? If you've had any of these thoughts, yep, we hear you. Tune into the Coffee with Christopher podcast on Spotify. Host Christopher Gentry and his guest open up about their unique experiences with work and in life and share the lessons they've learned along the way. Each episode feels like a heart-to-heart conversation, over coffee, of course. If you're ready to connect with the community of people sharing compelling stories, join Coffee with Christopher on Spotify and discover the power of sharing your story. Are you struggling to connect with your teen? Are you worried about the troubles your teen is facing in today's world? Don't miss out on the ultimate guide to faith-led parenting with the book from Script Seeds, Parenting Teens Through Faith, available on Amazon. Parenting Teens Through Faith is your essential handbook to raising confident, resilient, and empowered teenagers. This book provides practical advice for providing a strong, faith-based foundation for building character, virtues, and resilience in your teen. You'll also discover essential biblical principles for providing hope and confidence, no matter your faith background. Start building a stronger, more resilient family with Parenting Teens Through Faith, available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions on Amazon. This book is perfect for church groups. Order your copy right now. Meet Colin Hughes, a man who has always chased his dreams. He's been a cowboy, a pilot, and an actor. He was a professional bull rider and competed against some of the legends in the sport of professional rodeo. He announced rodeos, lent his voice to countless projects, and is now a retired airline pilot. But life took a dark turn when his 15-year-old granddaughter ended her own life. It was a pain unlike any he had ever felt before, even worse than losing his daughter to cancer in 2015. But Colin refused refused to give up. He knew he had to find a way to help others find hope, to inspire them to keep pushing forward in the face of tragedy. That's why he created The Miracles of Tragedy, a podcast where he interviews people who have survived unimaginable loss and pain and have come out on the other side stronger and more determined than ever. Listen to The Miracles of Tragedy and hear those incredible stories of hope and perseverance. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all major podcast outlets, as well as YouTube. So grab your headphones and tune into The Miracles of Tragedy, the podcast that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, miracles can happen.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Okay, This audio that I'm going to play right now is very disturbing. Just to give you a what do the liberals do? Give you a trigger warning.
Yes.
You know the girl that's on all the AT&T commercials, Lily from AT&T? She put a video up online that is so this video.
She's a real piece of work, that girl.
Yeah, she this is Lily from AT&T, you know, she's in all those, been in the AT&T commercials for years. This video she put up online may be the end of her AT&T Lily career. I know Hollywood's liberal and they're liberal. They're getting a lot of negativity, negative feedback from this because she went so far into the world of bizarreness. Let me just play it for you. It explains itself. This is Lily,
I can't wait to hear it.
The AT&T girl.
Wait, sorry. Before you unfollow me, I just really want you to know that I also believe Black Lives Matter and that money should be allocated from the police into communities. And climate change is real.
By the way, I believe residuals from actors that are in television commercials should be allocated to the police. Since she wants to allocate police money to Black Lives Matter, I want to allocate residuals for actors in television commercials to cops, okay? But anyway.
Wait, sorry. Before you unfollow me, I just really want you to know that I also believe Black Lives Matter and that money should be allocated from the police into communities. And climate change is real. Universal health care is the answer. I believe in removing money from politics. I have had an abortion. And I support every birthing person's right to have one.
Birthing person.
And what else? Oh, refugees are welcome here. I've been working for about the past 8 years to make sure that refugees feel safer and have more of what they need in the world. Also, I believe people are inherently good inside. And
inside, unless it's an unborn child inside, and then she had the abortion. That's
AT&T's in a pickle because
that's pretty
she's
ugly.
Obviously liberal. Because if they fire her, then it's obviously because of this. We're getting to a point where you just got to boycott everything, and you just really can't. You know what I mean? You have to live in the world, and I don't know why celebrities feel the need to express their feelings and opinions on all these things. Why would she be so stupid? She has a very lucrative career being an AT&T spokesperson. You make a lot of money, and we could talk about the other one, Jared, in a minute. We watched the show about that today. You make a lot of money being a spokesperson. Like Flo from Progressive is a multimillionaire. And when you represent a company like that, you really have to be careful what you say publicly. And there might be something in her contract that does not allow her to make political statements, and that might be grounds I would fire her. That's just insane.
You know, I've seen her in some other things other than the AT&T commercial. She's not a very good actress, and I've seen her on some interviews and stuff. She's not a nice person. She's very
not
full
very
of herself.
Intelligent.
But she says she believes Black Lives Matter. Unless you're for Black lives that get kidnapped in Mexico by the drug cartels,
or unless you're a black baby inside a womb.
You know, this then your life this story matter. About the Americans in Mexico, Joe Biden and Jean-Pierre and this entire government are the biggest low-life people we've ever had running this country. We have 4 Americans that were kidnapped, and now we're getting some information. 2 of them are dead. One of them is wounded. Yeah. The woman has survived, so I guess the other man was wounded.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't assault her. And what's happening? I watched a bit of the Jean-Pierre press conference. I'm not going to play it. It's just I can't listen to Jean-Pierre on this. Ducey asked her about, we have the Mexicans killing Americans with the fentanyl on this side of the border, and south of the border, why is the president, not seem to be doing anything about it? And Jean-Pierre says, well, we've had record breakthroughs on fentanyl. When's her record begin? 5 minutes ago?
She just lies through her. She just lies every day.
Let me tell you, okay? They're trying this story with the 4 Americans that were kidnapped, 2 dead, 1 wounded, and he could die from his wounds. The woman is not wounded, but God only knows what she went through. She's going to be traumatized. At the very least, she'll be traumatized forever. And they're trying to blame the victims. The entire media and the government. Well, they went there for this procedure. Oh. They shouldn't go to Mexico for the tummy tuck, and it's well known on the State Department website that this part. Most people don't go to the State Department website. We're not a bunch of Beltway insiders who spend our time perusing the State Department website. There was a time in this world when Donald Trump was president, when Ronald Reagan was president, and others. There was a time, and he'll be back. And there was a time that when you were an American, you could go to any corner of this earth and be safe because if something happened to you, there were going to be bombers coming down doing bombing runs. Okay? Mexico does not have a legitimate government. Mexico has for decades been run by the cartels. It's a narco government. It's not a real democracy. It's not a real government. They have no functioning government. It's an illusion. This story, I just went on the Daily Mail, is buried. I went on Fox News. Yeah. It's buried. They're already burying it. I don't care why they were there. They're Americans. And they were killed by terrorists. This is like back in the 80s.
They did arrest one guy.
Oh, big deal.
But who knows what will happen with that.
This is the deal, okay? And President Trump was talking about this in CPAC, about going after the drug cartels. The drug cartels to America are the same thing that ISIS and Al-Qaeda were to America, okay? And Mexico should be cut off right now. And I don't mean just the southern border. All of our tourism should be immediately stopped. The tourism should be stopped. The trade, there is nothing we get from Mexico that we can't get somewhere else, okay? Yeah. The tourism should be stopped. The trade should be stopped.
Except baby food.
All foreign aid should be cut off, and the cartels should be put out of business, just like Donald Trump put ISIS out of business. This fentanyl crisis that's going on in this country is an attack by both Mexico and China. Remember, the fentanyl is manufactured in China. The Chinese put it on ships, sail it to the Pacific ports in Mexico. The drug cartels get the fentanyl from the ships in the ports, put it on the backs of the illegals, and they walk across the border with it. And we're under attack. And the big guy, who of course is Biden, the big guy is getting paid somehow on this, all right? Everything he does is for money. Somehow he's getting his 10%, which is all he cares about. And this has got to stop. I mean, this is outrageous. And I'm disgusted at the media that are covering up this story. Like right now on Fox, they're talking about Fauci. I understand Fauci is a big, but we just had 2 Americans murdered, 4 kidnapped, 1 wounded. And it's like, well, they shouldn't have been there.
Well, I wonder what Joy Reid says about it all, because she's always so concerned about how nobody talks about black people being victims of crime. She has this whole thing about when a white girl like Gabby Petito, and when a white girl gets kidnapped and it makes the news, and when black people get kidnapped, has she, wonder what she's doing.
Well, she's the news.
I don't watch her show, but I wonder how she is covering this. I wanted to talk briefly about this Jared special we watched. They had on ID.
Jared from Subway.
Jared from Subway. Brian and I like true crime shows. And they had a 3-part special last night on Jared from Subway. And Brian and I recorded all 3 of them. We watched the first episode, and we could not stomach watching anymore. He was really involved with some really sick people, and he's very sick. He should be in jail for the rest of his life. He's gonna be out in 6 years. He got 15 years. He should have gotten a life sentence. He's a total predator and monster. And I would have loved to have been in the room when Subway found out about this, because what happened is I don't think Subway got the heads up. What happened is he was working with another guy who was a pedophile, and they had this whole thing going. I'm not going to get into it. It was pretty sickening. And this radio host, female, knew Jared and was recording conversations with him and turned it over to the FBI, where he was talking very explicit things. And then they just arrested him, went to his house. He had a beautiful home, and it was on TV. I don't think Subway knew it was coming. I think it was a shock to them. And I just would love to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting when that was discovered, because, man, what a sick guy they got hooked up. It's really too bad. Well, I got to tell you, he was really good for their brand until obviously we found out what he was all about.
This Jared from Subway special on ID, I'd been looking forward to watching it.
This is not going to help Subway.
And I mean, I remember when he got arrested and everything, but I didn't pay too much attention to the story. I don't know what was going on at the time, but it just didn't interest me. So we recorded it. I guess it was, 3 parts?
3 parts.
And we started watching it, and I knew that not that this is bad, okay? I thought he was had a thing for like prostitutes who were like, 16, 17 years old. I did not realize he was a total pedophile. And we're talking about very young, well, he probably still is, he's just incarcerated, but that he was into very young children. The prosecutor said as young as 6. And he had his own little pedo ring going on with his husband and wife and him.
Yeah.
And
he had slept with 2 16-year-old prostitutes in New York.
And they had phone conversations of him trying to get prostitutes younger than that. I don't know who he was talking to, but it was this Jared from Subway documentary was so disturbing. Just a few minutes into it, I couldn't watch it. No. I was physically ill.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
And stopped watching it. So my recommendation would be do not watch it. No. I mean, this guy is
You'll hear things that you won't want to hear.
Yeah.
You'll hear things you won't want to hear.
Yeah.
And, but it's never pleasant to hear about that stuff.
But the reason we bring this up about Jared from Subway, when you look at what's going on at these drag shows in the elementary schools and everything with the male strippers with the little kiddies, that's not too far away from what Jared from Subway is in prison for. If I went to like a local strip club here in South Florida, right? And I took the strippers and I went to a local elementary school and had them start stripping in front of the little kids, even if they didn't take all their clothes off, we'd get arrested. You do things involving sex with children, you go to prison like Jared from Subway. But now we've got this whole trend going on around this country where it continues. There's someone, I read a story on this today. It's just happened, so I'm not going to get into the meat of it yet because it's still developing and things, there could be more things added. A girl left the Daily Wire, and one of the reasons she said she left is because of their anti-transism that they have going on at the Daily Wire. God. Listen, this society we are in is under attack. We got a bunch of Jared from Subways that have wormed their way into the schools that are promoting these drag shows and everything, and it's got to stop. He was
going to schools, and well, anything under that umbrella of pornography and anything sexualizing children in any way, shape, or form should not be allowed. And when you have children exposed to that sort of thing, they become very confused and they grow up with very warped ideas of things. And of course, I don't think he was exposed to drag queens, but
well, you know what I think it is with Jared from Subway. Yeah. Before he got famous, when he was probably the kind of guy who sat at home. The internet was around and new, and he was doing all of his internet porn and doing all that when he was fat and not famous and not rich. And he was into all this creepy stuff, and then he became a millionaire and famous, and he had because of his wealth, he had the ability to act out on the things that he probably was always fantasizing about.
Fantasies, yeah.
Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters. Our Patreon supporters, your support helps us out a lot. It means a lot. And if you don't know what that is, if a Patreon supporter is, you become a patron of the program, right? You support the program financially. And there's a website, Patreon, which we have our Patreon link in the description of this and every episode. And there's also a link to our Patreon site on my website, briancraigshow.com. And you click that link and you can become a patron of the program on Patreon. And there are perks and benefits to becoming a patron of the program. One of them is you have access to commercial-free editions of the podcast episode. Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air shout-out on every podcast episode, and your names are also listed in my YouTube videos as well as all the podcast episodes, our top Patreon supporters. So I want to thank all of our top Patreon supporters by giving them their on-air shout-out right now. All the names you hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P., Carlos, and Paulette. These are our top Patreon supporters. And again, if you'd like to become a patron of the program, there's a link in the description of this episode on whatever platform you are listening to us on. Real quick before we say goodbye today, if you're new to the program, I just want to tell you a little bit about what I do, because I got a lot of stuff going on. I got a lot of content. And when people are new sometimes, maybe it's a little confusing. I host a morning radio show that broadcasts on 6 radio stations, 5 FMs and 1 AM radio station. And in the mornings, live from 6 until 9 a.m., weekday mornings, Eastern time, I live stream while I'm on the radio. And I take calls from my radio listeners as well as those watching on YouTube. So Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern time, I'm live streaming when I broadcast on the radio. I also do a lot of vlogs. I travel around and do vlogs. I often do live streams on the weekends. Sometimes when I go out for my coffee on the weekends, sometimes I do live streams outside of Mar-a-Lago, and watch the sunrise with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago and live stream that. And also, I co-host the Brian Craig Show podcast with my wife, Kathy, which is what you're listening to now. And the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast. We're on Audible, just like Michelle Obama. Her podcast is on Audible. We're on Audible. If there's a podcast platform, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on it. And this is obviously a show separate from the radio show that I co-host with Steve Kane. But I also upload the Brian Craig Show podcast to my YouTube channel, which is it's audio. And we do a live premiere. When we upload the podcast to my YouTube channel, we do a live premiere, which means there's a live chat room that you can participate in, and Kathy and I are in there too. Just like I have a chat room during my live stream on the radio in the morning. And that's what I do. So those of you that are new to the program, welcome, and tell your friends, because this is where MAGA comes to talk. My name's Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will talk to you next time.
Calling all NFT collectors. There's a hot new drop you won't want to miss. Optimus Force is a collection of limited edition NFTs living on the blockchain. Based on NFT comic books created with blockchain technology, Optimus Force is a game-changing NFT project. Holders of Optimus Force NFTs get exclusive access to rewards, staking, giveaways, and future token releases. Optimus Force is backed by a team ready to bring innovation and fun back into the NFT space by working hard to create a flourishing and rewarding ecosystem for all Optimus Force NFT holders. Join the Optimus Force NFT ecosystem right now by visiting optimusforce.in and following Optimus Force on Twitter right now. optimusforce.in.